Hey guys, it's Adelina. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to go over 10 real-world steps to take to start your tiny house journey. Stay tuned. Step number one is to be clear on why you want to go tiny. Do you want to have more financial freedom? Do you want to live a simpler life, leave a smaller footprint? Maybe you want to quit your job and do something different, go back to school. Maybe you just want the freedom to travel more and have fewer bills. There are many reasons that people come to it, and I think it's important to have your why and have it be a good one, because you're about to jump into an amazing and exciting process, but there will be challenges. Having a really good why and being clear on that, I think, will be really beneficial in helping you through the challenging times to get to your dream. Step number two in going tiny is to start to educate yourself. You're going to want to know about the legalities of being in a tiny house in your desired location. Will your municipality or your county allow a tiny house on wheels? What are the regulations that you're going to need to know? And what are the processes that you're going to need to go through? Consider different building materials and styles. Think about what your budget is. That's an important one. Decide on what your budget is and is it realistic? Do some research. Find out what other people have spent on building their houses and if it fits into your budget. Think about the kind of builder you're going to use. Are you going to use a builder? Will the builder be certified versus non-certified? Will you build it yourself? Will you have a builder just build it to a shell? Think about where you're going to park the house. Just start to do some research to see if the area that you want to live in already has tiny houses, and if so, maybe you can go and see one. Step number three in making your tiny house dream a reality is to build yourself a support network. You're going to need people that are on your side, that understand what you're doing and are enthusiastic and happy for you. Talk to your friends. Maybe you have some friends that are interested in it, your family, your kids, your spouse. Hopefully they're on board. But if not, there are communities. There are Facebook communities, groups on Twitter, groups on Instagram. So find yourself a support network there. People that you can talk to, people that you can nerd out with, and that you can ask questions and bounce things off of. Because I think that it's really important to have a support network. There are also professionals that you can learn from. People who are building tiny houses or who have built tiny houses, people who do this for a living. They're often very willing to answer questions and put you in touch with other people that are in the same situation as you, interested in building, in the process of building, and you can build a strong support network there. Some of them even offer courses on building tiny houses, either self-built or professionally built. So they're a good resource as well. Like I said, friends and family can be a great support network. My family, my kids were very enthusiastic about my build. They always have been, and they've been, my biggest cheerleaders. Friends were really important. So talk to people and get them as excited about what you're doing as you are, because having that support network, having people you can talk to, because you're going to want to talk about your project. You're going to want to talk about your build, and it's nice when people are happy to hear. So talk to people, let them know what you're doing, and build that support network. One of the things that I did is took a 3-day tiny house building workshop, and I will link the one that I took in the show notes below. And it was amazing. I got to, like I say, nerd out for 2.5 days with people that were as excited and as, obsessed with tiny houses as I was. And some of them were going to build them themselves. Some of them were building for their parents or their kids, and some were having them professionally built. Some were going to wait until their kids were out of the house, and then there were people that were just starting out, young couples as well as older people whose kids had left the house. So it was a great group of people, different stages in life, different types of builds, but all of us had that in common, and it was awesome. The instructor was amazing. We got to learn about healthy building materials, legalities, trailers, toilets. There's so many things that you will learn in something like that. And that will also help you build your support network, because you're going to meet some amazing people. So I will link that below, and I would really recommend, if you can, doing something like that, because it will be a great step in your tiny house building journey. The next step number 4, is to decide on your timeline. Start to research builders in your area, in your province, in your country. Research trailer sizes and styles. Decide on what would work for your lifestyle and what you want to do with your design. Do you want a gooseneck like I have? I'm on the gooseneck right now. Or do you want to have a main floor bedroom? Do you want your bedroom in a loft? Start to think about the design of your home and the type of trailer and the size of trailer that you're going to want. One of the things that's important in deciding on your timeline is, do you have to sell your current home? How long might that take? Do some research. What's the market like? Figure out how long it might take to sell your home, and do you need the funds from your current home before you can start your build? That's really important in deciding on your timeline. Another thing to think about is, how long is it going to take to declutter? Get rid of the things that you're not going to be able to bring into your tiny house. Furniture, extra possessions, things like that. That all takes time, so give yourself enough time to do that. That's something else that needs to get added to your timeline when you're deciding how long it's going to take. Right, we're getting to the exciting part, starting to interview your builders. So you'll have done some research by this point, so you will have a handful of builders that are in your area, in your province, maybe just across the country, and you'll have to decide, and you'll want to decide which of those you're going to actually go and meet and interview. The interview process is really important because your house is your baby, and you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who is as excited about it as you are. Are you going to have the house fully built? Some people will have a house built just to the shell, so that all the walls are done, and the plywood and the sheathing, everything's on the outside is done, but the interior is left unfinished for you to finish yourself. Or are you going to have the house fully built? Talk to the builders that you interview and make sure that they will do it to the stage that you want it. When you're meeting with the builders, really get a feel for how excited they are about your project. I had a builder that I was pretty excited to meet, but they just didn't at all seem excited about my project. It felt like I was just a number to them. And I get it, builders are busy, but you're going to want to ask that question. How busy are they? How many houses do they have on the go at one time? How much of a priority will your house be? The builder that you're speaking to, will they be the one managing your project? If not, can you speak to the project manager? It's very important because you're going to have a lot of communication with them during your build, and you want to be comfortable with that relationship and feel like you have an open communication. Another thing that's important to consider when you're choosing your builder is, now this is Canada, so I'm going to talk provinces, is which province is your builder in? I'm in Alberta, and we don't have a provincial sales tax. I met with a builder in British Columbia that I loved, and the builder was amazing, but BC has a provincial sales tax, so not only was I going to be paying GST, I was also going to be paying PST, and that actually made a big difference for me. So I think it's important to consider that. If it's the right builder and someone you really want to work with, that could be a non-issue for you. For me, it was something that made a difference. Also, when you meet with your builder, ask them about their certifications. Are they CSA certified? Do they build to a code? Have they gone through the process of getting certified? It's an expensive process, and a lot of tiny house builders are not CSA certified. It's important to decide if that matters to you, because it will affect your ability to park legally, especially in municipalities that are now beginning to allow tiny houses on wheels within city limits, but they still require that they be built professionally and they be built by a builder who builds to a code. So ask those questions and look on their website for that information to make sure that it's actually there. If it doesn't matter to you, then it's a non-issue. But I think having a builder that has the certification and builds to a code gives you more options when it comes time to park, and more options is always better than fewer. Now it's time to choose your builder. So you've interviewed them, you've checked references, which is another thing that's really important. Talk to some people that are living in the houses that they've built. You've got a feel for the people that you've talked to. You've made your lists of pros and cons, and now it's time to choose your builder. All right, steps 6, 7, and 8 can basically happen at the same time, but they each deserve their own point. So step 6 in making your tiny house dream a reality is to start researching parking spots. Decide if you want to park in a city or town. Do you want to park rurally? Will you own land and park it on there? Will you park it on somebody else's land? Start to do some research. It's important to have a legal parking spot. There is nothing worse than having somebody knock on your door and tell you you have to move, or having a notice on your door or in your mailbox saying that the neighbors have complained that you're not parked legally and you now have to move. There's no security in that. So do your research. Start to ask around. If you belong to a Facebook group, put it out there. Talk to everybody you know and ask them about parking spots. Talk to your municipality. If you've done a tiny house building workshop, you'll have had some information on that already. I'm parked in a mobile home park inside the city limits in Calgary, and this is a legal parking spot. The reason that I was able to find the spot and park legally is because my trailer is registered as a park model, not an RV, because you can't live in an RV year-round in Alberta. And also, I used a builder that was CSA certified. Those two things were requirements that allowed them to accept me here, which is one of the reasons I think it's really important to do that research ahead of time before you start your build. So do your research. Maybe you want to park, be in a farmer's field or on a piece of land and be 100% off grid. Maybe you want to be tied to utilities. All of those things are important because they will inform how you build your home. Do your research on what might be available for parking for your tiny house so that you have the security of knowing where you're going to park it after it's built. You're going to park in a municipality, in a city, in a town, in a county, then you really need to find out who you need to speak with. What department will you need to go to? Who in that department will you need to speak with? Start the process of finding out what the regulations are so that you can make sure your build qualifies for that and is compliant. Make friends with the officials in those departments. Start to get them used to what you're doing, and then when you have blueprints, you can show them the blueprints. You can get them in touch with your builder. A good builder will be more than happy to talk to a municipality, or in my case, the manager here at the park, so that they can get their questions answered and make it easy for them to say yes to having you there. Make appointments to meet with these agencies and these offices. Come in prepared. Have your blueprints. Have photos of houses that are similar to what you're building. Make sure you can answer questions about your builder that you're going to be using. All of those things will make it easy for them to say yes to having you there and make the process a lot smoother. Step 7 will be to, if you need to, put your house on the market and start your downsizing process. Decide on how you're going to do it. Are you going to do it room by room? Are you going to do it category by category? It doesn't matter, but build yourself a schedule. Do a little bit each day. It can be overwhelming, especially at first. You will agonize over every decision of what to keep and what to let go of. But eventually, it will get easier. You'll go faster, and you will find that it's easier to decide on what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of. Decide on what you're going to donate. Ask your family and your friends if there's anything that they want. If you plan on selling things, start to list those. It will make it easier if you're selling your place to have it decluttered anyways. Start the decluttering process and the downsizing process because it takes a while and it can be very exhausting. Try not to get stuck on sentimental things. Get rid of the things that don't matter first because that will get you used to the process and get you in a groove. So when you get to the things that are more sentimental, it will be easier for you to make those decisions and you won't agonize over every little thing and things will move along faster. My recommendation is definitely to start with the things that are less important to you because they're much easier to get rid of. If you decide you want to sell things, there's Kijiji, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace is a great place. You could have some garage sales, things like that. If you're going to donate, think about the charities that you might want to donate to. The Women's Shelter is always looking for home goods, clothes, kids' toys are really important because so often these people come with nothing and they have children with them. So there's a lot of good charities that you can donate to. And then there will be some things that you can't sell, you can't donate, and you just have to get rid of. And what I did was for those things, I actually just laid a tarp down in my garage and started putting those things in a pile. And then I had a company come and take it away all in one lump because I have a tiny little car and I couldn't take it to the dump. Make yourself a plan and try and do something every day or certainly every week so that you feel like you're accomplishing things. Once you get in the groove, it'll go fast and you will feel lighter and freer. For those items you plan on keeping, design your home around them. Make sure that you design storage spaces for them. For me, kitchen gear, utensils, small appliances are important to me because of the fact that I like to cook so much. So I made sure I had a place for my Vitamix and my Instant Pot and things like that. That might not be your thing. You may have camping gear or ski equipment. There's so many things. Maybe you're a musician and you need space for your musical instruments and the electronics that go along with it. Whatever it is, you can certainly have it in a tiny house in a small space. Just make sure that you're keeping those things in mind when you're designing your tiny house. Make sure you're having those conversations with your builder so that you have a place for everything and things don't have to be out. It's not that you can't have things in a tiny house. Just be mindful of the things that you bring in, the things that you keep, and make sure that you're designing in storage for them, and then it's all good. Okay, so number 8 in the steps to transition into your tiny house is to determine if you're going to need a temporary place to live while your house is being built. In my case, I sold my townhouse and it was almost 3 months between that date and when my house was finished. So I moved in with a friend and a co-worker. It worked out really well. I had the whole basement, my cat could come with me, and it was inexpensive and it allowed me to put what I was going to take into storage, just bring my clothes and finish my build and have the funds from the sale of my home to finish my build. Often friends, family will be more than happy to have you come and stay. If you have a pet, then obviously that's another consideration, but again, most people will be happy to have you even because it's only for a little while. Okay, step number 9. There are some things to consider before your house is finished. Things that will be an expense that you're going to want to budget for and things that you're going to want to make arrangements to have done. Such as, you're going to need some front steps, some way to get in and out of your house. If your builder's not providing that, you're going to want to make arrangements to have somebody build that. You're going to need to skirt in your tiny house. A lot of legal parking spots will require that. My park here required that the house be not only skirted in, but that the tires come off. The axles are still on, but the tires needed to come off of the tiny house. The hitch came off the front and the house needed to be skirted in. So I had to hire somebody to take the tires off. They're slid on plywood underneath the house, and the house is skirted in. You'll see from pictures that the front of the gooseneck, underneath the gooseneck, is also skirted in, is now my shed. There's a door in the front and on the side, and a window on the other side, and a light in there. So that becomes my storage shed. I needed to source the siding for that because the builder didn't provide it. Those are all things that you're going to need to consider. You're going to need to think about utilities. Are you going to be on city, municipal, water, sewer, electric? Will you need permits for that? Will you need inspections for that? You're going to need somebody to do the hookups when you get to your spot if you're going to be tied into those services. You need to make pre-arrangements for that so that there's somebody on site when your house is delivered. All of those utilities require somebody to hook them up, and I recommend that you hire a professional, somebody who's licensed to do that. Do the research and know what utilities you're going to be using, and hire somebody, have them ready to go to get that all set up for you. Another thing to consider is home insurance. I found an insurance company that would insure the tiny house on wheels. It's different than a mobile home, and a lot of insurance companies don't know what to make of it and don't have policies in place that allow them to insure it. They don't know if it's an RV or is it a mobile home. What is it? I made sure that my home was insured from the moment it left the shop. It came down the highway for 2.5 hours from Lethbridge to Calgary. I'm not sure if it's 2.5 hours, but I think so. And it was insured the whole way, even though I hired a professional to deliver my home. And he had insurance. I made sure I had my own insurance. The tiny house was insured from the moment it left the shop. That's important. So find yourself an insurance company that will insure it. Make sure that you understand what's required and give them all the information. They'll need the VIN number from the trailer. The trailer will have a VIN number because it's a vehicle, and they'll need that. Have that all in place ahead of time so that, God forbid, something happens, you are covered. My insurance company required, again, that the home be skirted in and the tires come off. And they required that I send pictures of each of those steps. So, which I was happy to do, and because now I know that my home is insured and I don't have to worry if something awful happens that I will lose the investment that I've made in my home. Will you need financing to build your home? Or will you need bridge financing from when you list your current place to, when it sells and you have the funds available to build your home or finish paying for the build on your home? That's important to know ahead of time. It's important to make those arrangements ahead of time. A lot of banks will not finance anything on wheels. I actually found a treasury branch, Alberta Treasury branch, that would finance a tiny house on wheels because I needed some bridge financing from when I sold my townhouse to when I finished my build. And I was able to go with ATB because they're one of the few that I found, and there may be more now, but when I was doing my build, that would actually finance a tiny house on wheels. They actually have a written protocol for it. They require, obviously, that the person building have a certain amount already in the build, but it's not a mortgage. It is a loan, but they will finance a tiny house on wheels. There's probably other institutions that will finance a tiny house on wheels, but ask around. If you've built your network, if you've talked to builders, they will often have information on that for you. Having my home blocked up, that was an expensive thing, and I had to find a professional that would do that. The 9th step in making your tiny house dream a reality is to think about the things that are extra that you're going to need to have in place, like insurance, like any financing, like getting your utilities ready to be hooked up and any inspections done. So those are things that are really important for you to consider ahead of time so that they don't come as a surprise to you and to your wallet when they do come up. All right, step 10, and the most exciting one, is possession day. The day that you get to take your baby home or welcome it home. Have friends there with you. If you're going to pick it up or follow it home like I did, it's nice to have somebody else there. Or in my case, when we got to Calgary in our parking spot, my friend was here with a bottle of champagne and lunch, and after we had parked it and everybody had left, we sat here and on boxes, and we had our lunch and our plastic glasses of champagne, and I celebrated. And I think it's important to celebrate. You've just done an amazing thing. You've built your dream home. Everything in it is what you wanted, and it's worth celebrating. Everything is more fun with friends, including this. There you go, guys. Those are my 10 practical steps to make your tiny house dream a reality. Let me know if you think I've forgotten anything. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment, because I love talking about this stuff, and I'm here to answer any questions you have. All right, until next week, thanks. Bye.